Happily. So Masoud, good to see you, my friend.
Nice to see you again,
yes. It's great
Fantastic.
to be with you. We're in Montreal at the
Yeah.
ICSA conference in July of 2012. We saw each other last in Barcelona at the conference there, and you're presenting here as well. And I guess for the purposes of this video, I've put up on my website since meeting you about the group nHis, and it's known as an Iranian terrorist group. And you were a leader in it, correct?
And not leader, I was I was the representatives in United States, and for some time I was the representative in United Nations.
So you were like a PR person?
Yes, PR person in political sense.
Right.
Because we had PR persons who were attracting or recruiting new members and new supporters and so on. But my job mostly was political.
You know, so you weren't dealing with the media as much as you were dealing with ambassadors and other politicians?
I was dealing with media as well, but as you mentioned, not as much as I had to deal with members of Congress or ambassadors of...
Give me some names of American congressmen you met with when you were I call you a leader in nHis.
No.
Senior member.
Well, most of them, I believe, they are not anymore in the Congress, but probably I can name, I met Gingrich long time ago. I met Schumer, I think he's still, then he was representative of, he was in the House of Representatives. Now I think he's in Senate, and many more, which I think probably most of them are not around anymore.
Okay, so just to come back to what is nHis, what's its origins, and how long were you involved with it?
About 20 years.
20 years.
Yes.
And if I remember correctly, you were studying mathematics?
Yes, totally different issue, yeah.
You were studying mathematics, getting your doctorate when you were recruited.
Yes, when I was recruited. You see, I was born in, let's say, middle-class, liberal, educated family. In Iran, and after I did my BSc in mathematics in Iran, my wife and I went to UK so I could do my MSc and my PhD. And after MSc, I started my PhD in chemical engineering and engineering maths. I was in final year of my study that we were attracted to this group and were recruited by this group. Then, if I go back to nHis and your question about nHis or Mujahideen Khalq or People's Mujahideen Organization of Iran, PMOI, NCRI, MSS,
and many friend groups,
and many other names that due to the situation and political reason and perhaps for window dressing they might call themselves. They started in 1965 as a guerrilla organization to fight with the dictatorial regime of Shah and American imperialism and Zionism and these kind of things. In 1980, after the Iranian Revolution, Rajavi, who was now the leader of the organization, changed the organization into a political organization to attract the students of the schools and universities and so on. And he was able to attract thousands of students of schools and universities with the slogans of freedom, democracy, and human rights for Iran. This is when my wife and I joined the group.
I see. So, so it started as a guerrilla organization against the Shah. When the Shah was deposed and Khomeini came into power, the group shifted to be more political.
More political organization, and they were pretending that they are peaceful organization, something like that. But a year later, when he felt that he can overthrow the government, he asked all members to pour into the streets of Tehran and other cities and overthrow the government.
Overthrow the Khomeini government.
Overthrow the Khomeini regime.
Ooh, so he wanted to do a coup.
Yes, he had this idea that he is Lenin of Iran. so he can
Lenin of Iran.
Yes, so he can repeat the October Revolution of Russia in Iran, and
so kind of a Marxist overthrow of the religious Islamists.
Well, their ideology was mixture of Islam and Marxism.
Okay.
It was, they were pretending that they are Muslim, but many concepts of their ideas was borrowed from Marxism.
Interesting.
Yes, unfortunately, their supporters, members came to the streets, but people didn't follow them. As a result, many members and supporters were arrested, executed.
Right.
And,
and you were how old when you got involved?
I was in both of us, we were in our early 20s, probably 23, 24, something like that. And so you could notice new shift. They suddenly changed from a political organization into a clandestine terrorist organization. And in matter of years, they killed almost 2,000 of Iranian officials, including president, prime minister, head of judiciary.
They killed the president?
Yes, they killed president of Iran then.
What?
And they killed...
I'm so ignorant.
Yeah, they killed prime minister, they killed head of judiciary, and
so I need to back up for a second. So what you're saying to me is you joined this idealistic organization that was peace-loving.
Yes, yes.
And over a few years it changed
into a terrorist.
And at the point that you became aware that they were killing people, what
this
happened?
is if you want to go through this, I have to explain how they manipulated our mind. I mean, how they could size the pulse of the government, how they could force us to think that this government is killing people, is harming people.
So they were indoctrinating
you.
how
they indoctrinate us to accept whatever they do. I mean, for example, if a member of organization is going to be beaten in one of the streets, you could hear it not just once, 100 times, in different shape and in different, from different angles.
And when you joined the group, you were in Iran?
No, I was in UK.
You were in the UK.
Yes, so for us, it was easier for them to manipulate our mind than those who were in Iran, because we were hearing stories from far from Iran, and we were thinking that, oh my God, children are beaten in the streets, they are gauging eyes of the poor girls, and so on and so on. So they prepared us gradually, step by step, to accept whatever they were doing, to accept the terrorist activities. In matter of years, they broke many principles of Islam while they were calling themselves Muslim, including killing people in mosque. As you know, probably, Muslims cannot kill other people in mosque,
synagogue, you told me at dinner last night.
Synagogue and church and so on, but they broke this dogma or this belief. They broke belief that you cannot kill women and children and old men. They broke the dogma that you cannot kill unarmed man. And also they had suicide operator probably for the first time in Islamic world, and certainly in Iran, as a woman.
A woman suicide bomber.
Suicide bomber, yes. And
so is it fair to say, because I think you've read my book, and so is it fair to say that this is a mind control cult, MEK, that they were using the principles of brainwashing and undue influence on its members?
Then I can say it was not fully a destructive cult.
Okay.
It was something in between.
Even at the point they were killing people, it wasn't destructive.
Even at the point that they were killing people, they were terrorist organization. They were, but at the same time, they were political organization as well. Still, they were not a destructive cult. But
I'm having a hard time wrapping my mind.
Yes, yes.
How do you get someone to blow themselves up without mind controlling them?
They were mind controlling, they were manipulating minds of the people, they were probably using brainwashing as well, but still characteristics of destructive cults were not there, not all of them. But probably, I don't know if you have read the article that I have written, that all terrorist organizations to survive have no option but change into a destructive cult. So in matter of year, Rajavi reached to this conclusion.
That's the leader.
The leader of the organization, that to survive he has no option but to complete the metamorphism of the group from a political group into a destructive cult by announcement of his marriage with the wife of his first lieutenant. He announced the new process which was called ideological revolution, and he asked all members to accept wife and husband, new wife and husband, as leaders of the group. And then I can say it changed completely into a destructive cult, with all characteristics of this destructive cult which you have mentioned brilliantly in your book.
And you said that you and your wife had joined, so when he introduced this new policy...
We were already member of the group.
You were a member of the group. Did that mean you had to split and have other wife?
No, not then. At that time, Rajavi was in Paris. I mean, after they failed in Iran, they killed 2,000 people and they lost almost 6,000 of their members through street clashes and also through executions. So he and many high-ranking members of the group escaped Iran and they went to European countries. In Europe, in France, in Paris, he announced his wedding, his marriage with the wife of his first lieutenant, and in matter of year, he signed a pact with the Iraqi dictator Saddam Hussein. So he asked all members to move from Europe and Iran into Iraq, and they started fighting against Iranian regime alongside Iraqi government.
Saddam Hussein hated Khomeini,
they
so
were
rivals.
Yes, they were in war. Iran and Iraq were in war at the time. So Rajavi could benefit from this animosity between two governments. What you mentioned about divorce happened a few years later, in 1989, 1990, after another failure. After Rajavi attacked Iran and lost another 1,000 members and asked all members to return back to Iraq, he found that there is no way that he can, because we were demoralizing and we were losing all our hopes and so on. So he introduced new stage of ideological revolution. This time he ordered all of us to divorce our spouses. This is when I was forced to divorce my wife.
Even though you loved her and she loved you.
Yes. We married when I was 18 and she was 17, and up to then for almost 15 years, 14 years we were married, in love with each other, with our family, with our children and so on. But probably now mind manipulation or brainwashing was in full force.
Yeah, well, splitting up emotional ties and commitment in order to be more dependent on the leadership is a very powerful expression of that type of control.
Yes. And of course, a year later, to end all family ties within the organization, he asked all members to send their children from Iraq into European and American countries to be adopted by supporters of the group.
To give up their children?
Yes, they had to give up all their children. Almost 800 children were moved from Iraq to Europe and the United States, and many of them, they didn't see their parents ever again.
That's terrible.
Yes.
That's horrible.
Yes,
so we don't have a lot of time. I guess I want to ask you to to think about what is the most important things you might want to share with anyone watching this video, because it might be a former member of a different group that's just trying to hear about your experience. Maybe it's a politician who's thinking of supporting the MEK. Maybe it's about the comrades who are still in the cult that you're concerned about and what you're hoping to do to help them.
Well, I think the most important thing that people have to realize is that cults can deceive. Cults can pretend who they are not. And this is, you know, deceiving by cult, how can I say, lying, or as you mentioned, heavenly
deception,
lie, or deception, I think is part of their ideology. You know, so unfortunately, although many members who join a cult, they are honest and in general good people, but when they join this group, deceiving others will change into part of their identity and their personality. They deceive others who are not members of the group without realizing it, without feeling bad, without anything. So when you see a member of a cult, member of MEK in this case, you feel how genuine he is, how nice he is, how much he is sacrificing for his goal. He talks very genuinely and very passionately about freedom and democracy and human rights and so on, and you trust him. And I can say probably he's innocent and honest when he talks with you about freedom and democracy and other things. This is why George Orwell talks about double thinking. While he is talking with you, he honestly, sincerely can talk about these goals and these fantastic ideas. But at the same time, inside of himself, he can love to democracy and freedom, because at least in MEK we were laughing about democracy. What does it mean? Voting and so on.
Evil. In my former cult, democracy was satanic and evil. But I see the phenomenon more as a dissociated identity, like cult identity and your real identity. So when politicians are meeting representatives of the group, they're sincere because they're sincerely indoctrinated to represent the best features of the group and what they think is going to be most persuasive to help the group. When in fact their real feelings, their real thoughts are all suppressed and are not going to be available for consciousness until the person leaves the group and then goes, you know what, I didn't want to divorce my wife. I didn't want to send my children away.
I didn't want to lie.
I want to go back to school and be an engineer.
Exactly. So I think if people realize that a cult can do that and can pretend to be sincere, honest, and so on, then it is very difficult for them to trust this kind of people. Because I remember once I was talking with a politician, a European politician, and I wanted his signature.
For MEK?
When I was member of MEK, and he saw my honesty, he saw my sincerity, and he said that, you know what, I don't know much about your group, but I see you, how nice you are, how sincere you are, how honest you are. So I think the group that you are supporting must be good. So I am going to sign it.
And you would be a very good representative, very
It was not just me, no, I didn't want to compliment myself. Many representatives.
That's how it works with representatives of every cult that are trying to do outreach. And the cult chooses people who are that true believers, people who are genuinely smart and good communicators. So let me just push you a little bit and say, why should U.S. politicians not support MEK?
Very clearly, I wished governments had a law against destructive cults. in this case, there was no need for explanation. But at the moment, unfortunately, we don't have this law, and they have named MEK as a terrorist organization. So I believe they have to stick at least to this definition of MEK.
Well, because they do terrorist acts.
Yes, because they are terrorists. At least they were terrorists.
Yeah.
And you see, the point is that United States made the same mistake with Al-Qaeda. When Al-Qaeda was fighting against Soviet Union, they helped them. They helped Taliban in Afghanistan.
Didn't they train Osama bin Laden?
Probably they did.
The report that I've read in the beginning, because America thought the greater evil is the Soviet Union.
Exactly.
So we'll use...
And my enemy must be my friend. This must be my friend.
This doctrine is very concerning, to say the least.
Why destructive cults or terrorist organizations who have to change the destructive cult are not loyal towards anything, towards any idea, towards any friend, towards
except
nothing.
To the leader.
Except to the leader.
That's the key.
Exactly.
The leader can be turned and then can go against anybody if you can influence the leader.
This is why I'm saying that if a destructive cult pretend that they are Muslim, Christian, Jew, or Marxist, and so on, all these things are irrelevant, as they have just two principles. One is survival of the cult. Second, loyalty and obedience towards the leader.
I agree. I really do agree. So tell me right now, America's phasing out of Iraq.
Yeah.
Saddam Hussein was overthrown by the U.S. government. America's coming out of Iraq. What's happening with the people who are MEK in Iraq right now?
Yes, obviously Iraqis do not want to have MEK in Iraq anymore. Why? Because during 1990 war between Iraq and the West, MEK helped Saddam Hussein to crash resistance and uprising of the Kurds and Shiite in North and South.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, and it was then even I think it was in the report of United States State Department as well. But anyway, RAND, which recently has prepared a report for Secretary of Defense of United States, has mentioned this fact clearly. So many Iraqis do not want to see them in Iraq anymore, and this is why after the overthrow of Saddam Hussein, all Iraqis government insisted that they have to leave the country. And obviously they didn't want. Why they didn't want? Because over there they have an isolation, heavenly isolation for themselves. Heavenly, I mean for them.
Right, to control their members.
Yes, because they can control the members. Right. But if they leave that area, that country, then they don't have this golden chance or whatever. So they might lose many of their members. So they were insisting to remain in Iraq. Fortunately, after the pressure of many countries, United Nations and so on, they agreed to move their members from Ashraf camp into Liberty camp, which was emptied after American left Iraq.
But it's still within Iraq.
Yes, it still is in the Iraq, but differ because the leaders cannot control members as much in Liberty as they could do it in Ashraf.
Because it was less isolated.
It's less isolated, and the shape of the camp is not the way that they can control people. People can move more easily in Liberty than in Ashraf. Yeah. So what they did, they had 3,400 members in Iraq. They moved the first 2,000 and they faced this problem. They faced this problem that they cannot control people, and some of them have run away. And
left the cult, you mean?
Yeah, they left the cult, they escaped. They escaped from the camp and so on. So now they have stopped in moving the rest of the members because they started from most loyal, most obedient members first. They moved them to Camp Liberty. Now they have reached to the bottom of the members, those who are most unloyal, most in Abedi.
Most likely to run away if they didn't have the extreme controls.
So now they are saying that no, we cannot move them to the camp because there is not human right condition existing in the camp, which you understand what do they mean.
Right, well it's the opposite, because they're basically holding them prisoner if they want to run away from the cult. And okay, so I get it.
So now they are again arguing with United Nations, with United States and the Iraqi government, and trying to deal. And the next stage is, okay, after they were forced to move the rest of the members to Camp Liberty, what should be done with these members who are in Camp Liberty?
Right.
There are several options that they are thinking about it, United Nations, United States and Iraqis and MEK at the same time. One of them was suggestion to move them into a Republic of Azerbaijan, which is neighbor of Iran, so they might be used against Iran again. This was an idea. Another idea was just to move them bunch by bunch into different countries, which MEK is not happy with that one. I don't think they agree with that one. Anyway,
wasn't the leader threatening to have everybody kill themselves, or to have the members do a war and kill other people and just be, you know.
MEK, I think I listened to one of the speeches of Rajavi recently, and he was telling the two members that, remember, you resisted against Iraqis and 30 or 40 of you were killed, or they killed themselves.
Right.
As a matter of fact, many of them was suicide rather than killing. But anyhow, and we won, and they couldn't throw us out of Iraq, and they have started to negotiating with us instead.
So he's lying, basically.
So imagine if we lose 300, what will they do? You know, a few years back in 2003, when Mariam Rajavi was arrested in Paris by French police just for a few days, they asked all members to go into a hunger strike, and many of them set themselves on fire in front of French embassies. And suddenly French government surrendered, and they freed Mariam Rajavi. So they know this trick. They know that if
the French government released the cult leader, because they didn't like the bad PR of people setting themselves on fire
in front of their French.
So that is sending a message to, you know, other governments that, you know, do what we tell you to do, otherwise you're going to have a PR problem too.
Exactly.
Because I was going to say, why can't they just arrest the leaders and the sub-leaders, and then all the people who want to leave can leave?
Yeah, they can.
That seems to me like a good solution.
Yes, it's a good solution. Or separate the leaders from the members and interview members
take them away for a month or two and let people do what they want to do.
Yeah, I mean, recently I heard that they have asked all members to write a letter to United Nations insisting that they do not want to be interviewed individually.
And they were told to write this letter to the United Nations. And so the officials of the United Nations get hundreds of the same letter, and they don't think that the officials are going to say this is suspicious, that everyone's writing the same letter at the same time.
Perhaps different language.
Oh my God.
Or another thing is that, for example, if somebody now is ill in either Ashraf or Camp Liberty, and they want to send him or her into Iraqi hospital, she insists, or he has to insist, that I have to have minder with myself.
Yes.
Somebody has to accompany me.
To keep me safe.
To keep me safe. Or as a translator, or as to keep me safe because the Iranian government want to kill me, and so on. So nobody is allowed, even for going into a hospital, to have operation, to go alone.
So you've written a book about your experience, how an educated, intelligent, idealistic person could be deceived into a cult for 20 years and do very high-level political lobbying,
defending a terrorist organization,
defending a terrorist. You escaped the group.
Yes.
And you're living in the UK,
yes.
And you told me before you want to set up a website and to try to do something to help the people who are still in the group.
Yes, at the moment I am talking with few ex-members of MEK, and we have established a group called sorry.
It's okay, it'll come back to you. It's a new organization.
Anyway,
an organization to help people.
Yes, the Research Institute on Destructive Cults, RIDC. And we are trying to help those members who leave the group to understand what has happened to them and how can they live in outside world, because many of them for almost 20-30 years have lived under this condition.
Right.
And when they come out, they're confused, and as you have
so it's more for people who've escaped the camps and they're already in other countries and they're trying to rebuild their lives and deal with the trauma, the dissociation, the phobias,
all of that.
Of that. I think it's a great idea. Of course, you know, I have Freedom of Mind and there's ICSA and other organizations, so you can draw on different resources.
Forward, to get help from all other good people like you and
So, but it seems to me like there's still the dilemma that people are being held against their will in Iraq, and with totalist cult leaders who want to maintain control and they continue to try to lobby politicians for their own agenda, and politicians, famous ones. I think you had said Giuliani,
Gingrich.
What can we do? What would you like to say if some staff member of Giuliani could, you know,
as you always mention in your books, educating people, informing people. Yes, informing how this kind of groups, these destructive cults, can be deceitful, and how they can manipulates the minds of even politicians. Recently, a reporter sent me a videotape from the gathering of MEK in Paris that you mentioned. Giuliani was there, and governor of Pennsylvania, governor of the old governor of New Mexico, and many other politicians from United States and European countries were there. I think many of them have been manipulated in mind to believe that this group is a group for democracy and freedom in Iran, and they are supporting them. While they have to understand that they are destructive cults. Destructive cults can pretend to be anything. You know.
And then it's fundamentally against human rights and freedom of their own members. So how can you trust them to fight for human rights? And they're friends of the U.S. for now, maybe, and with a handshake, but in the next moment they'll do whatever the leader says.
They will realize who they are when it is too late, as they realized what is Al-Qaeda and what is Bin Laden when it was too late, and the Twin Towers in New York were destroyed.
Yeah, I didn't hear a lot of people taking responsibility from in past administrations in the U.S. for the recruitment and indoctrination of Osama bin Laden.
They prefer to forget about the past,
Yeah, but if we don't remember the past, we're condemned to relive it, is one of the famous sayings. So you have a book, you have, I know, another book you're working on that you'd like to publish in English.
Yes, it is.
You have a website and a new institute that you want to develop. Any last words that you would like to share with anyone who's watching this video?
There are many things that when you want to decide which one is the most important, I think I have to go back again and mention that destructive cults cannot be trusted. Whatever they say, whatever they do, they cannot be trusted, and they should not be trusted. And
until the leader's gone. And then they're not a destructive cult anymore. People have the freedom to talk to their friends who had left the group. They have the freedom to read other literature.
And even if politicians look a bit carefully, they can realize that they are not who they say they are.
Right.
For example, in these meetings, they could see that their slogans is equality, freedom, democracy, human rights, but many members had photographs of Rajavis on their shirt.
Like in North Korea, they have
if it is equality, how come these leaders are around for past 30, 40 years, and why people, instead of slogans of freedom or equality on their shirt, have figures of their leaders on their shirt?
Right, and they're all dressed the same.
They're all dressed the same, with the same,
Zig Heil.
Yeah. How everything has been organized, how everything has been just set right.
So I want to also ask you, because you were involved for 20 years, you've left, you've rebuilt your life.
Yes.
Can you say something about the fact that people can rebuild their life even though they've committed so many years?
Yes, it is possible, but at the same time it is very difficult. Because after you leave a cult, you know, the slogan of MEK to us when we were a member was that you have to change into zero, into nothing, to become good advocates of the leader. Or another saying was that you have to change into an ant and have the same kind of relation that soldier ants and worker ants have with their queen with Rajavis. You should have this kind of relation with Rajavis. So after I left the group, for the first time, I really felt I am zero. I am nobody. I have lost my family, I have lost my youth, I have lost my health, I have lost my wealth and everything. And I was alone in London, you know. So for the first time I realized, you know, while you are in the group, you don't realize you are struggling to kill yourself. You are struggling to kill your personality.
Your real self, right?
Your real self
is trying to kill your...
You are struggling to kill your own personality, your back history, your personal emotion, personal feelings, and so on. So you are not thinking about that you are changing into nobody. Unperson person, as somebody mentioned. And when you leave a cult, suddenly you realize you are unperson. You are nobody. And you have nothing to lean on. You have nobody to protect you, to support you. You are like a child, but not a child, because child has support of the parents. And you have there is no parents anymore to support you. Many of them have lost their parents, their families, and so on. And but still, as long as you remember who you were,
that's the key, is to reconnect to who you were before you met the group.
It has
your hopes, your dreams, your intellectual abilities.
It has its own problem as well, because I remember when I started remembering who I was, there was a gap between who I was and who I am now.
Of course,
I joined
20-year gap.
Yes, I joined the group when I was 24 years old. So now when I wanted to go shopping and buy a shirt for myself, what kind of shirt can I buy? What kind of color? What kind of model?
Well, you were trained to be dependent on groupthink.
I am dependent from the group, and if I want to lean on myself, then I am going to buy a shirt which is appropriate for 23 years old man.
That's true.
While now I am 44, 45, when I left the group, 43 or something.
I see that phenomenon all the time. It's like people come out and they're young again. Because that was their last reference point for their identity.
It seems that their personality was frozen for 20 years, 30 years. And when they when they wake up, the personality which they found is 20 years younger than their body. You know.
That's normal for someone coming out of a mind control cult.
This is another problem. Another problem is that what do you want, what do you like, and the new ambition, what do you want to...
Sure. Identity confusion and fears in the group. Did you fear for your life, by the way? Because I would think that you would be.
Yes.
Unlike my group, I was afraid for the first 2 years, but if I was in a terrorist group, I think I'd be pretty worried.
Well, I was a bit lucky. Why? Because I was famous. I was famous in United States, in United Nations. And
so the high profile had helped
I was high profile, and they were very keen not to, you know, because
ruffle those feathers.
Because at the same time they were active in Europe and United States. They tried to kidnap me once. They asked me to go there, to go a place and meet them, and then by luck I found out that they want to kidnap me.
By force?
Yes.
Wow.
To move me to the group again.
Yeah, Moonies tried to actually kidnap me when I first got
Oh my God.
Is what I was told. And they didn't believe I had been deprogrammed and left the group, so they were going to just rescue me.
When I was reading your story, it was fascinating how close they are with each other. Even our escape was almost similar, because you had an accident and you went to hospital, I think, and you escaped. And
with the help of my family, we did an intervention.
It happened for me almost the same. I mean, I found a back problem, very bad one, and I had to go to a hospital. Unfortunately, at that time, they were too busy with one of their meetings, so they didn't think about me.
Because you were so trusted. Right?
Yeah, I was so trusted.
You were able to make your escape. And this past week, Katie Holmes escaped from Tom Cruise and Scientology.
Oh, really?
So I'm doing interviews all about Scientology as a cult. And what is Katie Holmes probably going through.
Are you going to interview with her?
Oh, only if she approaches me, obviously, but and even if she did, I couldn't say because I'm a therapist. But just historically, it's July of 2012, and it's a the cult issue is back in the media because of this celebrity who just you know, didn't tell the group she was leaving, didn't tell her husband she was leaving, but planned an escape with the help of her family, apparently.
But she's lucky because she is high profile and they cannot harm her.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. So below this video, I'm going to put your website and the name of your book, and I'm going to try to help get your new book published.
Thank you very much.
And you're teaching a mathematical model of brainwashing that you've worked on, so I'm going to attend your session this afternoon.
Thank you, very kind of you.
And thank you for taking the time to share. And
I hope it is useful for
some people. Well, again, it's a lot
educating, as you mentioned always.
It's always, for me, a wonderful thing to meet people like myself, who comes from a good family, educated, intelligent, who got deceived, who rose to prominence inside of a group. In your case, you spent 2 decades, and but had the courage to leave and to rebuild, and not just leave and rebuild, but want to help the people who are still behind. And because most people who leave the group, they just need to recapture lost time and want to move forward, which is fine. But for those of us who feel a commitment to help those who are left behind, I thank you, for your courage, and it's a pleasure to be your friend.
Pleasure to meet you, and pleasure to be practice.
We'll turn off. Bye-bye.